is more, lots more.
Folks, I muted our damn sounds, not the music. I'm like, how are we still kicking the theme song? But welcome into the show where it's not wrestling with your budget. It is not wrestling with your conscience. It is wrestling with emotion. And we got the panel in today. We got Slick L. We got your friend, my friend, our friend, Jake Micah. And we got the head of the table, Michael J. Partham, reconvening after a little bit here, boys. Obviously, a huge weekend we're coming off with. Still a lot to digest from that. Speaking of a lot to digest, if you're looking for amazing cuisine, if you're looking for amazing entertainment or good times and fun, get to our friends at Batavia Downs, the region's premier entertainment destination. Follow them on social media at Batavia Downs. Stick with that events calendar, and you'll always have something to do on the docket. Speaking of the docket, what should we get into first, boys? All Out or Wrestlepalooza? Why don't we let the head of the table decide? What do we want to get into first?
Yeah, let's go in chronological order. Let's go with AEW All Out because there's a lot to get to as far as that show is concerned. I mean, obviously, breakneck pace, banger matches. Some of them went maybe a little bit too long, but it was certainly eventful. It was eventful. There were returns. There were surprises. There were one shock finish, at least, that I could speak to. But, I mean, it was your standard fare AEW pay-per-view, but a lot more came out of this than one might expect on paper. I just took a few notes here on AEW if I can get to them. But
yes, very surprising results
guys.
on this show. Not the least of which was my timeless Tony Storm being defeated by pinfall in a 4-way match. Talk about being a professional. Talk about respecting the industry. Some wrestlers still know how business is done.
I think that's going to be so cool to see what Tony does with that, because like she looked so lost walking backstage, and we know what she did with Mariah when she was with the company, but I think they'll put a different little twist on it. So what were you going to say, Partham?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Statlander looked like she was going to be in line to be the next champion, I would think. I just figured it'd be on a one-on-one match, not in a random fatal 4-way that was put together within a couple of weeks or so. And obviously, there's a little thing going on with her and Wheeler Yuta. She's getting teased about joining the Death Riders, which, by the way, their ranks are growing by the week as it is. But at the very least, Chris Statlander pinned the champion. It wasn't something where she pinned the champion loss without being pinned. So at least they did it straight up that way. But it seems to just come out of nowhere. It's surprising, and a lot of people are happy for Chris, and she's earned it more.
She absolutely deserves that. Yeah.
But it just seemed very random, and it came out of nowhere. Especially for timeless Tony Storm, who's very over, who's gotten that Women's World Championship over. I know she was in the promos leading up to it. She said, "I'm a woman in search of her murder." She basically was asking for a death in some way of her title because there weren't many challengers to go around. She was like, "Okay, let me stack the odds against myself and someone step up," and someone obviously did. But Jake, what did you think about how it went down?
That promo that Tony cut on Dynamite on Wednesday, I felt like was a lot of foreshadowing. Like it was very much like, this is the end of my run. Thank you all, everybody else. And I was like, oh man, maybe she's selling it, she's putting it on thick that she comes out of this. But then they ran the package before, the 4 ways to die. Like you said, she was searching for a murder, and it felt like something crazy was going to happen. Very interesting with the Statlander part is, as you mentioned, the Death Riders. She using Wheeler Yuta's finishing seatbelt pin to get the win there at the end.
That was the big storyline, right?
Yeah. And they asked her about it afterwards in the press conference, and she said, "Oh, maybe it was just because Yuta was there, and I was thinking about him, whatever." But there's clearly something going on with Yuta and Statlander. Now, the interesting thing about that to me is that Yuta is the one kind of looking like he's on the outs with the Death Riders, right? Like he's kind of getting like Moxley, or Danny's the one coming out with Moxley now, and not Yuta as much. They obviously brought somebody else back that we'll get into it. They're fully formed. So maybe it is something of we all think that Statlander is going to join the Death Riders, and Statlander actually convinces Yuta they become friends and they go back around. We'll see how it goes tonight, starting with it. But Stat also asked who they want their first challenger to be, and she said Tony Storm. So we're going to get Tony Storm and Chris Statlander in a proper one-on-one match. And I'm with you, Slick. It was wild because in that moment you're happy, and I was in the building there. You were happy for Statlander. It's a crazy reaction, everything else, but my eyes were just glued on Tony because of the work and that's just how she can convey a story with just not even saying anything in the way she looked, like the despondent look on
Distraught.
Toni Storm. Yeah, just like complete utter shock.
Yeah.
Very interested to see how they come back around with that.
I'll tell you what, Jake, too. If that goes the way you were saying, Chris Statlander and Wheeler Yuta used to be pretty good friends with a certain someone that might be on his way back too tonight. I also, how about the Hurt Syndicate guys? I forget the name of the team they lost to, Ricochet and his cronies.
The
Demand.
And
Man.
they do
By
that
the way,
name at the pay-per-view.
By the way, that is an awesome name for a faction. The Demand, so good. But yeah, that's another shocking one. I thought this show was really well done in terms of the surprises, not just in match, but obviously, Partham, you alluded to the returns as well. Should we get to those?
Yeah, let me go through them. I got them all here.
Yeah, so
well, let's start
not
with
even
a certain.
let's just start with the debut.
By the way,
Let's-
real quick,
yeah.
just a reminder to everyone tuning in. Our guy Jake Micah was in the house with the Micah boys,
Yes.
so quite an experience that night. But yeah, let's talk some of the returns. Big, lots of shenanigans, as our boy Michael J. Partham likes to say.
Shenanigans!
Oh, he's quick with that one.
Well, the first shenanigan that went down, I guess, was the match that everybody was looking forward to. We figured it might main event the pay-per-view, but they started with it: Christian Cage versus FTR. And
real
lo and
quick, I think
behold,
that was a great call. It absolutely got the crowd going, but it was like perfect for the two hometown guys to get in there. And then obviously what happened after, if you can go into it, Partham.
well, it seemed to be like bring your wife to work night in the world of wrestling. And I guess Beth Copeland showing up to work out of nowhere. This wasn't even rumored or whispered about or anything. I mean, we all thought in the back of our minds, Beth does that. You think you know me. She does the voice for that. You know, the new version of Copeland's Cope. Jesus,
Metalingus.
everything.
Yeah.
Mel-
I feel like we
you
got
know
talked
him.
about, I
But
feel
now
like we
she-
got talked about being a possibility in the very beginning, like once, and then we all just forgot about it.
Yeah. Which,
Yeah,
by
for
the
real.
way, that song that she came out to was another Alter Bridge song. If you didn't recognize it.
I did not.
But-
Good call there, Partham.
Yeah. So she comes out, makes a example of Stokely, carries him out to the back, then comes back out at the end, and all of a sudden FTR gets some heat on her. Basically, not unlike the Judgment Day thing, like a few years ago when they concertoed her, and the people were comparing what happened to her, the Spike pile driver, to that. So it's almost like the Grandpa Simpson meme. She comes in, she just leaves just as soon, I guess. I mean, I don't expect her to see her on Dynamite or in the next few weeks, but it was certainly a pleasant surprise. And then just as quick an exit, I guess. They also, by the way, Spike pile driver Christian, so don't know if we'll see him soon. We all knew Eddie Kingston was going to return. He was advertised.
Christian
and
and
they wanted
Cope,
to do that.
no hug, by the way. They're still not up to a hug. They,
Well,
they just
Christian
got
didn't
to what?
reciprocate the
They
hug,
got
that's
to
all
what?
it
A
is.
handshake?
Yeah, it was not. It was a non-reciprocated hug. That's all. It's not unlike what's probably going to happen with Bailey and like Lyra Valkyria down the road, where Bailey hasn't out and out hugged Lyra even in her hugger mode when she's got the split personality. But we're getting ahead of ourselves with WWE stuff. I also want to mention, of course, Eddie
You're
Kingston
getting ahead of
returned.
yourself.
But this was an advertised return, unlike, we thought it was going to be a surprise where he'd get involved with the Death Riders, but they wanted to sell tickets because Eddie's popular. The match was a little bit uneven, and there was a miss spot here, especially at the end with the back fist.
yeah.
But the news, of course, was Hook coming out at the end and allying himself with Eddie Kingston, a couple of New Yorkers, basically. And Hook was basically saying, oh, maybe I should go on my own, but then again, maybe I shouldn't. And at least me personally, I thought, well, is he thinking about joining the Death Riders again? Are we going to turn the Death Riders into the NWO with like 4 limos and 30 guys popping out? But no, he's just going to partner with Eddie Kingston, which I think is a great pairing for him. What do you guys think about that? Quickly.
And Eddie and them, I don't know if they talked afterwards or if it was like I don't think they had the press conference, but like one of the backstage promos afterwards, Eddie being like, I couldn't have gotten back without Hook. Like he was so supportive. He was my guy, however much truth that is to it. I do think Hook still needs somebody to Hook's promo ability. We don't really know about, like he's getting more comfortable talking. They're putting him in more positions, but having him with Eddie, like Eddie's going to talk
Eddie
him
can
up,
talk,
make him look
yeah.
like $1 million bucks. Exactly. It would be a welcome addition to the tag team division if they do decide to go that route and they're not just backing each other up with their own feuds. And that there's obviously been, I think that one of the best things in AEW in 2025 has been the refocus on the tag team division and making it one of the things. And that was the bright spot of this whole card for me was that ladder match and the tag teams just in there and the skill level that they have. But definitely like two guys who I don't know what they'd be doing alone right now. We think Eddie will eventually get back involved, probably in some Death Riders stuff eventually. Maybe this is how Hook gets involved with it too, and then maybe we get some Blood and Guts teams, whatever that may be. But just for the immediate future and just guys where I don't know what their direction was going to be, well, put them together and see what happens. And clearly, I would imagine like real life that they probably have some rapport and camaraderie together, and it's something that they've wanted to do and work together. So I'm excited for it for Hook as much as anything to be with a guy like Eddie and learn more from him, because they clearly are investing a lot of time and effort into Hook, into making him a star. So it's got to work out.
Speaking of, before we get to you, Slick, speaking of people we have rapport and camaraderie with, we have the voice of reason, Ernie Green, with us. Ernie,
Hey
nice
guys,
to see ya.
I saw the 4U on screen. I wasn't sure if I was walking into a wrestling show or a handsome contest. Goodness.
Whoa,
you're too much.
putting us all over.
All right,
EG,
Eddie, so
just talking over All Out 2025. Any thoughts there?
My biggest thought was that like I love Eddie coming back. I think there's two people in my opinion who have really taken the opportunity of being in AEW and really wrangled it to the maximum, like got as much juice out of it as they possibly could. Number one was MJF, because he was just an also-ran to start. I was at that first show. He was a heel, but he was not someone that they had, like, in my opinion, like in the plans to be a future star. And he just busted through that door and like, I'm a star. I think he's one person. And Eddie Kingston's the other person who's really just taken the opportunity of being in AEW and really like just taking the ball and ran with it more than anybody else. And I'm glad he's back, because I think that he has a lot to give, not only in death matches, which he's good at, but I think he's a very underrated like technical wrestler. Even though he doesn't look like Bret the Hitman Hart, he's probably more sane than Bret the Hitman Hart at this point, the crap he says, which isn't really saying much. But he's a really, in my opinion, Eddie Kingston is a very underutilized, or not underutilized. He's so diverse. He cuts a great promo. He can wrestle physical. He can wrestle hardcore. He can wrestle a technical match. I really think that they need to really take advantage of him this run around, and really I hope he gets in the world title picture, because I think he deserves it.
Yeah, he's certainly popular, and they need all the baby faces they can get with Ospreay and Swerve and Kenny Omega for the time being out. And Slick, any brief thoughts on Eddie before we move on to other All Out stuff?
Love Eddie. Glad he's back. He can do wonders hanging around with Hook backstage and in the ring and in front of a crowd. Ernie, to your point, I was just going to say Eddie Kingston's a pretty big hater, and it's hard to be a bigger hater probably than him. But if anyone can do it, I think it's Bret the Hitman Hart.
Unless you're Jamie hater, of course.
Yeah, true. Zach, any thoughts?
No, just as we get to the middle of the card, I know we talked the Demand beating the Hurts, and again, a lot of the roster putting over the rest of the roster on this show. If that makes sense. Like I feel like the favorites are necessarily the faces or the crowd supported sides. Like even for example with Cope and Christian, they won the match, but at the end of the day, like they also put over like FTR as being ridiculous and like crazy and able to do anything in this feud. As I go on to it, that kind of sums up the other match that we had coming up here. Moxley. By the way, Marina Shafir went 2-0 on this card. It has to be noted. We look at the records. But getting lit on fire, but still winning the match and coming out. I mean, is Mox never going to take a day off here?
Whoa, he got lit on fire afterwards in a backstage segment.
But no, that's what he's saying though. Like that, the same thing with FTR and Christian and Cope. Like they won the match, but afterwards FTR were put over by putting them down in the dirt. Also, with matches that did end in the ring, the ladder match, you have Brodito going over when the Bucks were in that match, which is like almost unheard of. Bucks not winning a ladder match where belts are on the line. There's another one I'm thinking of as well. The Hurt Syndicate.
Well, I just think
the Hurt Syndicate losing to the Demand earlier, like I mentioned. Sorry, what was that, Maniac?
No, and then what about my boy Takeshita not wanting to pin Dorada and wanting to pin Okada in the match? My man's got honor.
Careless.
Well, and that a match without a result putting someone over, as good as Takeshita and Okada are, that match was let's put Mascara Dorada on a pedestal for the first time in front of this audience on a pay-per-view, and he showed out, bro. Incredible. He's 23 years old. Like the future is bright. He's probably gonna be. if he's not already signed to a dual contract, I'm sure they're trying as desperately to do it with him as a CMLL wrestler. But that was a great, like, it's just a spotlight on an incredible wrestler who's up and coming. We got to talk a little bit. I got to at least bring up Mark Briscoe and MJF, and Mark Briscoe getting the win there. Max,
that's what I was thinking
surprising.
of.
Max taking 2 losses. He loses to Mystico Friday night in Mexico, flies to Canada, and loses to Mark Briscoe. I mean, that's a guy. You want to talk about a guy willing to do business, like literally putting his body on the line. I was terrified when you saw Bryce out there with the big whatever he had taped up on his arms, the arm sleeves, everything else as the ref. You knew that it was going to be some chicanery going on, and then Briscoe just dumps all the tacks onto the ring, and it was really well done, and just like how they built up to all the painful spots that you had to go. I mean, I don't think any of us had any idea what the hell a tables and tacks match was even going to be, and we're sitting there and they're like, they didn't explain the rules beforehand. I don't know if they said it on commentary at all, but the announcer didn't say the rules, the ring announcer. So we're like, is this a tables match? Is it like first guy to get slammed into the tacks, and then you just see him counting pins in the tacks? And it was just like, I
had no idea that, knowing AEW and how it came out, it's exactly what I envisioned. Just like the name says it all, and it doesn't mean shit. It's just like there will be tacks and there will be tables.
Absolutely. But then you brought up Moxley and Darby, I mean, Darby put it, losing that match, he doesn't lose anything because every single Death Rider contributed to that loss, right? Like the Death Riders come out, they came out. What did they bring out when they all 5 of them walked out?
Well, they had a coffin. They had 2 coffins, and they brought one into the ring.
They brought one
for Moxley to play around with, essentially.
Right.
But it was curious because that was the extent of their involvement. Because then Moxley sends them all to the back, and then Darby has the upper hand. And you're thinking, are they going to come out? Are they going to come out? And they essentially did come out, but it was just one guy, and a guy that we hadn't seen in a while, and that's the Bastard Pac, who looked a lot different. Yeah, he was actually wearing clothes. He wasn't just in his ring gear, shirtless or whatever.
Well, and so it was the hair for me. It was the hair
was weird.
Yeah, it was really odd. It was kind of like seeing Juice Robinson without his beard for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just like a culture shock, real quick.
Or Tommaso Ciampa, for that matter.
How about the one-on-one main event over 35 minutes? I mean, I thought that was pretty surprising.
Just a little too long, I felt like.
A little too long, especially after that.
Yeah.
Especially after that tag match and the one return we haven't talked about yet, which was, guys, the biggest reaction of the night.
Yes.
With Jungle Boy Jack Perry reuniting with now back to his old self, Luchasaurus. That was literally the loudest the arena had been. And after that crazy match, one of the best ladder matches I've ever seen. And I thought specifically, you said in the ring, the spot I've never seen a ladder match do so well with the spot, with the ladder just in the ring and wrestlers actively trying to climb the ladder to win the match. It was like 10 minutes of them, somebody trying to climb the ladder and them getting something out of it. It was just so really well done. But then to have that moment and to have that whole crowd singing along and happy to see, I mean, is there a bigger come up from a face turn than Jack Perry just got in recent years? It's crazy to see.
Before we get into the Jack Perry thing, I want to just mention, were they climbing to win the match or were they climbing to just do spots? Because even Bryan Danielson was calling, I put this in our chat, Bryan Danielson was calling him out. Come on, the tag belts are basically right behind your head. You're basically higher than the tag belts. Turn around and grab them instead of being a spot monkey. Who the F wrote this bullshit?
Who the fuck wrote this bullshit?
There was one specific part where Bandito was just standing right there waiting to do his little flip over the top, or maybe it was whoever.
Yeah, no, that was the clip that Partham posted or whatever.
There were at least
he's
2
literally
in that
shoulder level with the belt.
There was somebody else that was right next to the tag belts, like right off to the side. It happened at least twice, and I think Danielson called it out at least once. But I digress here.
I think that's actually funny to have like an internet mark at someone saying that.
Well, someone's got to make sense of all this.
I agree.
You have to embrace that there's an aspect of wrestling. Like, how many times have we seen someone about to, escape a steel cage and they dive off of it to like hit like one move?
Parts of it's no different than Takeshita not wanting to pin Mascara Dorada earlier instead of.
Well, that's more of an ego thing than a dumb.
I mean, Bandito's ego got the best of him. He was like, "I'm gonna jump off this ladder."
More like Bandigo.
But anyway, yes, Jack Perry returns, and the way they did it was nice because they showed the Luchasaurus in the hospital, the underground hospital bed, which we saw when he first returned to partner and take on Cope and Christian for the matriarchy, which
It
now
reminded me
has
of the
left them.
D-Rex opening scene in the new Jurassic movie. If I'm being honest.
Oh, we
Sorry
discovered
to
it was
cut you off.
Jack Perry that was digging him up essentially and nursing him back to health all along. So it fit really nicely. And the hug in the middle of the ring, and then they do the Tarzan boy music, and everybody now gets another sing-along song for Dynamite whenever they come out. You know what? It might be going backwards, but it's going back to what works for each of them. So good for them,
but you know what? And I listen, you could say whatever you want about revenues, you could say anything. WWE would have just had Luchasaurus run out, start popping people like no questions asked. AEW does the cinematic with him like digging it up and like, you know, like rehashing. I mean, I don't know. I think there's an art to that.
It was really silly to see the Bucks about to, you know, beat
That's so,
trigger
dude, that's
Jack
so
Perry,
quick.
and then the light goes off, and the whole it's like they could have just still did the move, like you could
never
still hit
forget
him with the
never
knee.
forget that Scott Armstrong was one hit of the mat away from firing Dolph Ziggler, John Cena, and everybody at Survivor Series 2014, and then Sting's music hit. But speaking of music,
I don't get why it's illegal to do anything with lights off.
it's completely in the wrestling universe.
Flops.
It's completely illegal.
Well, by the way, meanwhile, in 2013, 'cause I was at this show with Tadaro at the 2013 Royal Rumble, like the big spot was literally under the lights when the Shield came out and attacked The Rock.
Yes.
Instead of pinning, it's like, which one is it? It's like, which one are you going to be? It's going to be like, do you just, I mean, let's face it, professional wrestling is suspending belief a lot, right? But it should have some semblance of consistency and some semblance of like, I don't know, like just some sort of logic at some time.
The ironic thing about all that, right, is exactly like you said. Like lights going off in wrestling means like, you know, like anything can happen. Then you have Vince McMahon who comes out at that 2013 event at that moment, and he goes, "We all know what happened when the lights turned off. We all know like the Shield attacked or whatever." Like, right? Didn't he say that?
Yeah, because he was going to strip, because the
memory.
stipulation one, he was going to strip Punk of the title if the Shield interfered. So that's why the lights went out and the Shield interfered.
Yes. So ironically, 12 years ago, Vince McMahon was playing kind of the Daniel Bryan role of him at the like kind of calling his ass out. Pretty funny. But yes, getting into the main event, we kind of the plane's gotten a little turbulent here. Any argument? I know it was too long, but anything else as far as, you know, like I thought it was a pretty good match as far as putting Kyle Fletcher over as a top tier guy, and obviously making it like this AEW thing is tough to hold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better myself, actually. The two reactions it had people coming away with was Hangman is the fucking man, and it's going to take a lot to get that belt from him, and Kyle Fletcher is a main event worthy pro, and he will be there in the not too distant future again.
Agreed. And he's still got the his other title. Speaking of titles in action on Saturday, there was no shortage as we get into Wrestlepalooza. The timeline was pretty upset at Lesnar Cena. I know that, you know, they're pretty much Cena people or whatever, but what stuck out? Let's just go around the horn on this one and then let's see what comes up. Ernie, why don't you start? We'll go over to Parthy. What stuck out to you most on this card? Obviously ESPN's debut with WWE. And then I guess where does it go from here? And how did you think, I guess, the start was of this relationship?
I am as negative of a person on ESPN as there possibly can be. I think their shows are crap. I think their analysts are crap. The only time I ever watch ESPN is when I'm forced to for a sporting event. I refuse to watch any of it. WWE, in my opinion, is on the train tracks going 150 miles an hour, and with the conductor with the guy who is supposed to be booking wrestling matches in charge, with a bunch of people in his ear and around him making really dumb decisions, and he doesn't have the power to say, "Hey, you're making really dumb decisions." Like,
yeah,
number one, like it's obvious to me that John Cena is booking his own retirement tour, and it's obvious to me that John Cena doesn't know one freaking thing about booking, even though he's been in the business for 20 some years. Like, nobody like. That was literally the same match that we saw at SummerSlam in 2013, 2012, 2014.
Yep.
I apologize. 2014 SummerSlam. Like, I have no problem with Brock Lesnar winning over Cena, but like it should not. Like, where do you go with Cena from here? Like, he's got 5 more appearances.
People
And
are
then, he
saying
just
this
got
is
squashed
building
by a guy who
towards.
hasn't wrestled in 2 years.
Well,
So
where do you
yeah,
go with Cena from here? Apparently, Cena's deciding himself by tweeting at AJ Styles, "Yo, what's up?" And now,
And-
Triple H, are you listening? That's
and if
probably
Cena
gonna be
goes
the
and beats, like our AJ Styles now, like what does that say for AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar?
You know what? That's probably going to be the same match that Cena and AJ had back in
Don't tell me they're running it back.
Well, that's okay because that was a fantastic match.
That was a great match. The Brock
That was a
one,
great
yeah.
match.
Where
But to me,
were
like,
you when AJ Styles kicked out of the Avalanche AA?
That was awesome. I was at my house. But to answer your to me, like WWE and this ESPN conglomerate, they're trying to turn like every pay-per-view and everything into the Super Bowl, right? Like the Bills are playing the Saints this week. That's not the Super Bowl. A non
It's like WWE Evolve.
A non-big four pay-per-view is just a non-big four pay-per-view. You can't, and then this one just got added now. It's like you can't just like treat everything like the Super Bowl because it's not the Super Bowl.
The greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah, so I mean, where do we? How do we rank? Let's really quickly. How do we rank WWE? Mania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and then Survivor Series, the big four, maybe Money in the Bank in between. You know what's not on that list is Wrestlepalooza, where one of the headliners of the show went on every single radio show or talk show he could this week and said, "Hey, this is a stupid name for a show," and I don't disagree with him. You know what I'm saying? So, the show itself was probably a C. It was just average, but when you combine the fact that they overhyped the shit out of this show, pardon my language, and they really underdelivered on the hype, it's not. It was very. To me, it was a very negative overall show.
Well, let me tell you something. One thing that never underdelivers is Batavia Down. So let's go to some train wreck trivia.
Batavia Down is more, lots more.
All righty. This one's gonna get some people. 25 years ago today, WWE Unforgiven. Pay-per-view that ran from I think 98 to 2008. There was a fatal four-way for the WWE Championship. Actually, it was WWF Championship at that point. Who were the fatal four competitors?
Okay, so if it's 2000, there's got to be some combination of Triple H and The Rock in there.
Yeah, I was just going to say Triple H.
Triple H, The Rock, champion, yes.
Okay.
Rock, Angle. Jericho.
No Angle, no Jericho. It was going to be my two hints because those are the big names.
Lesnar?
No Lesnar. Undertaker was in the match.
Big Show.
No Big Show, but you're close.
I'm done. I'm out of guesses.
Kane.
Oh wow, Kane was in there.
Wait, so Kane.
Rock, Taker, Kane.
So Rock, the
Taker,
Brothers of
Rock.
Destruction in a fatal four-way match. Who was the fourth competitor?
Not Jericho, but who?
Chris Benoit.
Did you just look on the side?
No, I dead ass just guessed that because
I should have done that.
Wow.
Oh my god.
WWF Unforgiven, September 24th, 2000.
I was like, it's either
25.
someone so aligned with The Rock or someone so completely random, and I was like,
It's so random to have him tossed in there for sure. Speaking of Fallout, Parthi, I know you wanted to talk this. What stuck out to you most about Raw Fallout coming out of Wrestlepalooza?
Oh well, let me just speak on Wrestlepalooza for a second. Listen,
okay.
I tend to favor WWE. Now you got me saying WWF.
Uh-oh.
A little bit more than AEW.
Oh,
but
yeah. Since Punk came back, we'll just put that.
Kinda. That's part of it. That's part of it.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. I just want to
for what this show was and what it was hyped up to be. I have to say it was a little bit mid. And you got to put a little bit of that on, their head of the table, essentially. Because when someone says you can expect surprises, you can expect spectacle, and you can expect the biggest show of the year, and then they just do a few matches with not a whole lot of surprises or implications coming out of it, outside of his wife being inducted into the Hall of Fame, you got to point the finger at Triple H.
Good thinking, Triple H. Real creative.
Yeah, I'm not gonna shield him, quote unquote, from blame. With that said, I think there's something to what Ernie said, though. And I know it gets tough to book, wrestling programs as time goes on and everything. I just remember back to when Triple H took over, like there were the backstage like hints and stuff taking place for every storyline. And there was like other side storylines happening. And some of that has fallen by the wayside. And it makes sense to me more like, yes, like things are like whether it's corporate, whether it's TKO, whether it's injuries, and whether it is the natural stuff that comes up. There just starts to get in the way. So yeah, I think he does shoulder some of the blame, but I think there's also some stuff out of his control for sure.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, this Guest of Mankind by P-Met was amazing.
I think he was already retired by then. But
Yes.
Cena versus Lesnar, obviously they repeated 2014. It sort of came out of nowhere. Allegedly, they just decided on that the morning of to have Lesnar go over.
Yeah,
whether or not
you're the morning of
you're the dirt
crazy.
sheet guy. Did they allegedly change the entire match morning of? Like the outcome even too? That's what I saw.
I mean, everybody was going and saying Cena's going to go over because it's his retirement tour, and they're just going to give him all his flowers. For
I know that's what
and
fans
now Cena allegedly wants to put everybody over, but I mean, Lesnar doesn't need to be put over any more than he already is, right? But some people are saying, okay, they're setting up for a rematch of sorts in War Games, along with all the baby faces going against the Vision and a combination of Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. Maybe we'll see how that plays out. But if you believe the same dirt sheets that I mentioned, supposedly that's the only Cena Lesnar match we're getting, which in a way is sort of a good thing. We don't want to have to keep running this thing back over and over again just for Cena to get his revenge. But anyway, we'll see how it plays out. Right now, it's in the very early stages.
Like,
Bully Ray says he's going till WrestleMania.
I believe
anyway,
it.
so the Vision versus over the Usos, another Vision versus Usos and LA Knight combination, which was a nice way to get LA Knight onto the show by having him being the special guest referee, and then that continued over to the Raw Fallout, which we'll talk about. Punk and AJ, I thought did very well against Seth and Becky. Becky got a lot of praise and her flowers for being able to work with AJ after 10 years away from the ring. Stephanie Vaquero and Io Sky was obviously the match of the night, and Stephanie getting her title, being able to celebrate that with her father was very heartwarming. Cody versus Drew. One other thing that came out was supposedly Cody and Drew both wanting this to end with Randy Orton coming out probably to mess with Drew, but then screwing up in some way that cost Cody the title, which would be an intriguing way to generate buzz coming out of WrestlePalooza. The only problem is, as we saw last night, the upcoming match at Crown Jewel is going to be Cody versus Seth. In other words, WWE versus World Heavyweight Champion. And you wouldn't be able to make that work with it being Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, two heels. And especially if this is going to help build into the War Games match, which we expect Cody and Seth to be a part of. So overall,
I think you could have easily ran Seth and Drew. I'm sorry, I don't mean that's your original world heavyweight championship feud. Seth can go on a rant about how Drew had to go completely to the other side of the mat because he could never beat Seth Rollins for that title.
But now you're putting them at odds against one another when they're probably going to end up being reluctant allies at best.
Gotcha. I mean, I just feel like they had a huge feud. I mean, if that's the reason they didn't do it, that feels pretty silly to me because, like you said, they missed a huge chance for buzz to end WrestlePalooza. Like if you had a classic wrestling ending where one guy socks the wrong guy and you got a known entity in Randy Orton that kind of, like turned his back or kind of like cost Cody Rhodes, I think that would have been a great storyline. But
they got caught between a rock and a hard place with the matches that they're obligated to do at Crown Jewel. But go ahead, Jake.
That's where I wonder what Ernie was talking about, and we've been talking about a little bit here, is how much of this is the head booker's ideas and how much is the influence from everybody else, and did the decision come down to the fact that it's like Cody is the franchise, we can't mess around with this on our first show, he needs to be standing strong at the top of it, much like a John Cena would be in that position 10 years ago if they were on ESPN. Anything else, Super Cody goes over, and that's just what it is. Like, and maybe that's Cody wanting to do something a little different, do something a little surprise, and inevitably them picking the safer options all across the board because this isn't, it isn't all that they hyped it up. They put all the eggs in the basket on WrestlePalooza, but it's not all about WrestlePalooza. They have a lot, like there's, we have these big shows every month coming up. This is just the start of this relationship. Obviously Crown Jewel, they're trying to make it a big thing. They're trying to make the Crown Jewel championship and get that established. So having Cody and Seth as the tent pole, especially if you're putting it on at 8 a.m. Eastern and trying to get people
Can't wait to establish Crown Jewel top of the morning while the rooster's singing.
I
Jeez.
just
Sounds nice. I wake up by 8. I don't know about you guys.
Big
Oh,
picture
no,
as we
I'm-
wrap up the
no,
pay-per-view
absolutely not.
talk. I feel that we didn't talk a lot about the main event of All Out, and the one thing I will say is there could have been 2 matches cut out of that show. It should have been 8 matches. Maybe Eddie Kingston gets pushed off to having his debut match on Dynamite or something else. And Wrestlepalooza needed 2 more matches. It needed a sprint of some sort from the tag teams or something else, just something to break up just the gravity and the commercials and whatever else. 5 isn't enough. 10 is too much. Just go to 7 to 8 matches, both of you companies, and let's just eat, let's cook. Like, that is the perfect amount of wrestling that we need. Because I was hyped up, like I was very excited for Hangman Fletcher, and you could just feel the energy out of the building. But with a Wrestlepalooza show, 5 matches over 3.5 hours, it's just not enough content.
You know, it's interesting because they have 6 matches planned for NXT No Mercy coming up, so they can put extra matches on for NXT, but not for WWE. I guess I don't know. But anyway, one other thing to keep in mind as far as Cody Rhodes is concerned, he just got the WWE title back from John Cena at SummerSlam, and he's been taking some time off to shoot a movie. It would have been barely enough time for him to be on TV as champion in the wake of SummerSlam, and then he immediately loses it to Drew McIntyre in his first title defense for this reign. Would have been a little sun. But Slick, what about you? What do you think?
I think you guys have taken all the words that I might have had to say about every single match on the rest of the card. So
Get
I think
out of here.
figured, no, I'm just saying, like, we got other things to talk about.
No,
So.
we do. But yeah, at the end of the day, there was a lot of wrestling. Pretty rare we get 2 on one day for sure. I will say I don't mind the 5 matches. Just to talk on Micah's point. I mean, but out of all 5 matches for Lesnar and Cena to be first and the shortest is pretty devastating.
It seems like Brock just wanted to leave ASAP.
What I mean, no offense. What else is new? When was that? The only time Brock Lesnar's hung around during a match was that SummerSlam match where he beat the shit out of Cena so bad he was literally just hanging out.
You know what? There was a little bit tidbit that Natalia actually talked about Brock Lesnar on Busted Open. Said, I might be ruining his character, but he actually tends to stick around in the backstage area watching the monitors and gives advice to people, after their matches. So I don't know how often that happens. He's not there that often at all as it is, but okay, maybe he's not as much of a mercenary, just does his matches and leave as much as we think he is. But I digress.
I think everyone's kissing Brock Lesnar's booty because backstage he can do whatever
they don't have
he
to.
wants. I mean, Natalia's on her Legends tour going around beating people in other promotions. So, with that said, speaking of beating people in other promotions, it's an invasion on NXT. This is so lame. I'm sorry. From the tweets last week, I don't know what happened. They must have changed something because this just doesn't make sense. The tweets last night, and then last night had the vibe of like a comedy house party where like 2 enemies are fighting and they're fighting each other so much that like the top people don't even care. Like you had like Slick said, you had Ricky Saints and
Obafemi.
Obafemi, by the way, like climbing up the title like at the same moment. Like again, like they were just so unconcerned that there were 40 people fighting around them.
Dude, they were so unconcerned during the match. Like they're showing these people on the Tron. They're all in the crowd. They could jump in at any moment, but they're clearly not a concern to whoever's in the ring.
What do you mean they weren't concerned? Booker T was out there fearing for his life on commentary.
Buddy, they weren't a concern when they were all backstage for the entire first hour and a half of the fucking show. No one gave a shit.
Who are those 2 GMs that are the assistants to Ava, right? Because they were asking her over the phone while she's over in Europe for some reason. What's about these TNA guys?
They were the only 2 that inquired. No one else cared. No.
All I'm saying is it was way better executed in 2018 when they did that.
Spoiled the invasion. Everyone in the company.
It was spoiled last week with all those tweets. And doing a title versus title match.
So it's not even an invasion. They were like, oh, you guys are showing up. We'll leave the door open. As simple as that.
Well, the door is, they said it's an open door policy, but things got hostile this time around.
Well, there you go. No invasion. You just said it.
So hostile.
It's an open door policy. It's like a revolving door. You can just come and leave whenever you please. It's
so hostile that Ricky Saints just strutted his stuff up right in front of the camera to end the
Seriously,
show.
in front of fucking Femi.
I mean, I get what they were going for. This just sucked compared to like the 2018 one. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. The 2018 one, the wrestlers literally came to the back, like it made sense. Like they were in the back, then they came out, like shit made sense.
Yes.
I don't know. Anyways, And that's in wrestling.
about Raw?
Nonsense. What do we got?
Should we talk about Raw?
Well, what else you got from Raw?
Oh yeah, well, Asuka and Kairi Sane turned on Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. I mean, they already didn't like Rhea Ripley, at least Asuka didn't. But Asuka and Rhea finally, got into the ring and got to take their frustrations out on one another. And then at the end, Asuka missed Rhea Ripley, makes her look like one of those, what do they call them, a Navi from those movies?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Navi.
The
The
Navi,
Avatar?
whatever. Avatar, right. I actually was thinking more of those green-skinned girls from freaking Star Trek or wherever. But one way or another, Rhea basically got a paint makeover. And then Io comes out trying to play Peacemaker, and then she gets knocked down for her troubles. And let's give props to Kairi Sane, because she was acting her ass off with how torn she was between wanting to do what Asuka's telling her and not wanting her to hurt her friends. But yeah, I mean they put those women in the main event, by the way, which thank God we didn't get another Braun and Bronson versus LA and the Usos combination for the 10th time in a row, which we did essentially, but not in the main event. Well, we got Jay and LA Knight actually taking their frustrations out on one another for a change in the ring, trying to settle things. And then the Bronze inadvertently end up helping Jay out. Maybe not deliberately. He was down for the count while LA was trying to ward off the Bronze. And after it was over and Jay takes advantage, he just walks on out and says, nah, not my problem. Jimmy's the one that has to come charging to the ring with an equalizer to save LA Knight's ass. But is Jay, are they just giving Jay a harder edge, or are they teasing a heel turn with him? Because with him sniping LA Knight, him and each other sniping LA Knight back and forth, one was going to tease a heel turn, then the other's teasing a heel turn. Now it's back to Jay essentially. So where do we think we're ultimately going with this?
I was going to ask you, because I'm asking the same questions. Like with Jay, what's the end goal if he does turn? Is it to put him opposite of Roman with a different light, where he's the more aggressive, the heelish version of himself, and Roman, while not exactly like, he didn't really redeem himself in a typical wrestling fashion, but the crowd just loves him. He's more positioned as a baby face, and we can get that flip side, and then Jimmy is the one back and forth between the two of them in this regard. Like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, what is whatever if it is a Jay and Roman, if that's where we're heading towards, and it's another iteration of that, I think I like it. But if it's just Jay turning for the sake of turning, and then just because they need another heel or something, or just want to do something different with his character after, don't want to overstay the welcome with just running off the yeet, right? Like, especially, like, it was a great run. He got the world title, everything else, but we're how long into this character of that? It's been almost over 2 years now. So it could be time to get him back to that edge, or at least start to turn him back. And then we get to some middle ground with the three of them, where they're all tweeners and back together and everything else. But I just don't know what the end game is, unless it's Jay Roman somewhere big down the line.
To end the 2026 Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a triple threat between the Usos and Roman.
Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know if that slaps though. They're both putting Jimmy over. That makes me pissed.
Okay.
One other thing coming out of Raw, Bailey split personality. How we digging this Hugger Bailey versus what do we call the other Bailey? Ding Dong Bailey.
Ding Dong Hello. Ding Dong Bailey.
I like Hugger Bailey.
We all like Hugger Bailey. She's great.
Yeah,
I'm really into what Bailey's doing. That's my favorite thing going on, I think, on this show right now, is what is Bailey doing with this character work? How is she going to end up with this? I think she did a great job building it on the vignettes and everything else. And Lyra is a perfect foil for her to decide what to do with on it there. And I mean, hopefully that push comes to shove sooner or later and we see where she goes. But I wonder how long she can toe the line of going back and forth between these two, personalities and voices in her head, whatever exactly it is going on there.
Yeah, at first I didn't even have any. Oh, sorry.
I wonder how long we can have Lyra essentially. I don't want her to be too confused for too long. Like, at some point, she's got to understand and she's got to pick up on it that these are two different Baileys that she's dealing with at any given time. Instead of just being all confused, like, what, you say one thing the next and you forget the next, and what's going on? So I figure this is leading to a pay-per-view match. I don't know if it's going to happen on Crown Jewel, but essentially they're going to fight at some point. Or maybe Hugger Bailey proposes a tag team against the Judgment Day, which they've been fighting against the last couple of weeks. And then mid-match, Hugger Bailey turns into ding dong hello Bailey again, and then just acts hostile towards her tag partner, or maybe tries to walk out on her. There's a bunch of different ways this can go, I guess.
A lot of ways to go, indeed. Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't picking up on it first, but now obviously I'm a preacher. I like the split personality angle. What was the best split personality angle WWE's ever done? Would it be Goldust?
Mankind's got to be. Mick
I mean,
Foley.
Mankind literally turned from Mick Foley into Cactus Jack on screen.
And then
He
Dude
was
Love, some
Mick Foley,
Dude Love
Cactus Jack,
action in
and
there.
Dude Love all at the same time in one Royal. Well, not at the same time. You can't do that, but 3 different times in one Royal Rumble.
3 entries, same Rumble, yeah.
Yep.
That's outstanding. Talk about running the roster. All right, we got a Dynamite on deck with a Tony Khan big announcement. So my guess is some show in November.
Oh, I think it's the women's tag team
That's the rumor.
titles are finally being announced.
Oh, that's a pretty good guess.
That's the big rumor. That's the guess that everybody has. One rumor that I saw that I don't know if it's the one tonight or if it's down the line. A women's Continental Classic, possibly.
Oh, I'm here for either one.
But then they'd have to
get more
invent a
attention.
women's Continental title, and good lord, we already have.
I'm
no
kinda
time.
with-
if we're gonna bring women's tag titles in for on top of that.
I'm with you guys. I think it's one of the women announcements, probably the tag titles. It would be really funny if he just took this opportunity to take the stage and announced a brand new pay-per-view on the same day as like Survivor Series or something. It was like, take that, Triple H. But yeah, no, it's probably just gonna be the latter. And back to not as important as they may seem announcements. We missed you, Tony Khan. We're so back, guys. We're so back.
Who's going to be the next challenger for the AEW title?
Oh,
That is a great question.
Great
I don't
question.
know who the next challenger might be, but I think I know where this is ultimately going, and I'm going to go back to what I thought was going to happen in All In. It's going to be 10 belts Monet, gentlemen. That's going to be the 10th belt.
Oh, okay.
You think we put what?
Yeah.
I still think she's losing all of them before she ever wins that world title. That's where I'm at.
I mean,
I think
I
it's
hope we didn't put over Statlander just for her to lose it to Monet, which technically Tony
I know.
could have done.
She's
that's
close
not
to
bad.
she's
I don't-
close to
yeah.
breaking Jade's record with the TBS, and then I
Yeah.
think her days are numbered there. But the men's title, I
That's
don't even know because he's still across from the Callis family.
They don't have Wardlow anymore, which was rumored to be the guy.
No Wardlow. I mean, we know Takeshita and Okada's coming.
I would
I
like
don't
to
know.
see
Okada's
like
already got a belt,
I
but
would
that
like
didn't
to see
stop,
like a
Fletcher.
fatal 4-way or something for the number 1 contender.
Yeah.
And I would like for
mean,
that number 1 contender to be
Takeshita.
Kenny Omega.
Yes. I mean,
If he
that's
can
the
come
dream.
back, sure.
That's the
I mean,
dream.
they did like tease the Hangman stuff before this title match with the Bucks too. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
And he did Kenny moves in the match. He did the
True.
bang and the V trigger onto Kyle Fletcher. I mean, if we're talking Wrestle
All right.
Dream, like they have to run that match back at some point.
Mm-mm.
I honestly thought I was sitting there middle of the main event, and I'm like, this could if we're not just ending with typical like Hangman just wins and we ended as the world champion going and holding his head high, could have been a Callis family beatdown of Hangman with Kenny coming back in Canada to save him and having that moment and then eventually getting a title match out of it. Kenny didn't show up in Canada, but that does feel like it has to happen at some point. Wrestle Dream feels like a good point for it. Hangman's been huge on having to earn the titles though. So I'm with you with the Fatal 4-Way or some kind of mini tournament or something to earn the shots, because that's basically what he's demanded of Max, of Fletcher, everything else. So we'll see.
Well, we know tonight that Hangman has an AEW World Championship Open Challenge against the Ring of Honor Pure Champion Lee Moriarty. Now, I don't know where that might lead. Someone's got to obviously come out at the end, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a match to do a match for the time being. But yeah, other than Kenny, let's not forget that the sword of Damocles of MJF and his contract is hanging over Hangman Page.
Yes.
Although MJF is obviously taking some time off to do yet another movie and possibly actually going on his honeymoon for a change there, Max.
I'll take it.
Poor wife.
I don't mind that. Any final thoughts here on Wrestling with Emotion?
other than an announcement, we do have some matches lined up for Dynamite. Brodito is going to defend against Gates of Agony, part of the demand. Supposedly, supposedly the demand was going to be in a trios title match, but Katsuyori Shibata is not medically cleared, so they're going to go for the tag titles instead.
See, this is where I lose AEW a little bit. Like Brodito shouldn't have to be defending these right now. They were just they were like, this devalues the ladder match to me. And like again, like I know we're talking about made up, story.
For all we know, Moxley's going to show up after he's gotten set on fire.
Probably will. Honestly, he'll probably do the full entrance. Honestly,
I love that Death Riders song though.
We got more.
Just hit so hard. I'm sorry.
We do have some Death Riders action with Claudio facing Powerhouse Hobbs. So it's Death Riders versus Ops, which their beef is continuing.
Half an hour away.
And the most likely return tonight, I believe it's pretty much confirmed, of Orange Cassidy, which will be a huge boost to the roster and the conglomeration as a whole.
All right, just about half an hour away here. Any shout outs?
I believe that's it. But huge shout out to our sponsor, Batavia Downs, the region's premier entertainment destination. For our panel, Parthy, Micah, Slick, and myself, go have a good rest of the night. Enjoy AEW Dynamite. And remember, this isn't the show where it's wrestling with your conscience. This is not the show where it's wrestling with your budget. This is Wrestling with Emotion.